again. This is Paul Mackey, and I did some live radio this past week. It went pretty well, and I would definitely do it again. Only a couple of stumbles and awkward mumblings, but otherwise a solid contribution. I probably will be doing it again in the fall, as they said they'd like to have me do it again. Kind of a retro thing, radio, I suppose, but not as retro as Whiz Kids. Episode 2, Fatal Error, originally aired October 19th, 1983. Brief summary. The episode starts in the middle of the action, video game action. The kids are taking turns allegedly market testing a prison escape game. I have to say the TV people made a pretty convincing animation of a video game at the time, at least until the caught explosion. It turns out the guy they are corresponding with, Dave Kearns, is actually using the computer in a prison library. He's both a game designer and a prisoner. The game the kids are playing is actually based on the halls of the prison, and the kids are unwittingly testing options for his escape from prison. The kids play out an option that works, and then he escapes. A mysterious woman in a limo offers Richie $200 for information about Mr. Kearns. Farley and Lieutenant Quinn both encounter Kathy Sutter, Dave's girlfriend, who says she has no idea where Dave Kearns might be, and Quinn wonders aloud why Dave would break out of jail for only $12,000 of missing loot. It turns out Dave had stolen from the woman in the limo, Velma Sherry, who was running an off-track betting operation and laundering the money through the firm Dave supposedly ripped off. Velma and her gang beat down Kathy, the girlfriend, then jump him at their planned meet spot. Dave gets away and meets up with Richie and the gang at Richie's place. He explains that he took the loot and enough evidence to put Velma away and buried it in the hills, but now that area is due to become a housing development. After some hijinks ruining Velma's computerized betting systems and tracking down where the loot might be, and the reveal that it's $1 million, the kids end up leading Velma's goons into a swords and sorcery thrill attraction at a nearby amusement park, where they scare them with dragons and buy time for the police to arrive. My favorite line:
How did you meet Mr. Kearns, anyway?
We never met him. We just talked back and forth by computer. Come on, Alice! Come on, you can do it!
Why don't you talk back and forth on the phone like normal people?
I don't know.
All right, the who is query. Well, now that the show has gone to series, they were able to finish retooling the concept and fleshing out their staff. I'm not sure why Michael Horton, the reporter from the pilot, did not continue to series. As far as I can tell, from the coverage of the initial pilot rejection, the reporter might have been added for the broadcast pilot after feedback. I also suspect it was a hasty casting decision, and they either didn't manage to get Mr. Horton under contract, or they went another direction when they were able to seriously take time to cast the series regulars. So they added a different reporter, but also a police contact. I'll be getting all the major cast as we go along in this, but as I've gone into the reporter several times now, I suppose we should look at Max Gale, who plays the new reporter friend, Farley. Max Gale is probably best known for his role as Detective Wojciechowicz on Barney Miller from 1975 through 1982. Max Gale was born in Detroit, Michigan in 1943. His first major acting role was in 1970 as Chief Bromden in the original staging of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest at the Little Fox Theater in San Francisco. And he moved with the production in the same role on Broadway in 1973. Following Barney Miller, he appeared as Harold, the owner of DC Cab Company, in the film DC Cab, the same year that he starred in Whiz Kids. He has made guest appearances on shows like Trapper John M.D., Amazing Stories, Doogie Howser M.D., The Original Quantum Leap, Murder, She Wrote, Home Improvement, Judging Amy, and Dexter. He had a recurring role on Gary Unmarried and was a series regular on Sons and Daughters. More recently, he worked on General Hospital in regular cast role Mike Corbin and won Daytime Emmys for Best Supporting Actor in 2019 and 2021. Oh, I suppose I should also point out Joanna Kearns, who played Kathy, Dave's girlfriend. Joanna Kearns went on a couple of years later to a role as Maggie Seaver on the hit sitcom Growing Pains. That Week in Tech. So the robot arm seen last episode feeding Richie and this week feeding the fish was a Mini Mover 5 released in 1980 by Microbot Incorporated of Menlo Park, California. It was programmable using proprietary ARM BASIC software that was developed as an extension of Level 2 BASIC running on Radio Shack's TRS-80 computer system. I found a sample program written for teaching the arm to pick up an object in one location and move it to another, and it's really only about 110 lines of code. The arm has 5 controllable joints operated by a series of pulleys and cables. It had a total lifting capacity of 8 ounces. I saw an article from Creative Computing magazine in 1983 that said that the arm could be controlled via an interface with Apple II and IIe computer systems, so I assume they moved to Apple as it became a bigger player in the educational computing market. After a lot of digging, I found that pre-release in 1980, they were predicting it would cost $1,700 plus shipping, adjusted for today's dollars, roughly $6,450. Totally 80s, or aged poorly? You take your pick. Why, sure, man I've never met and don't know anything about. Come on in and sit alone with my teenage son. Artifactoids. It probably won't shock you that they did not develop a sword and sorcery set complete with dragon for this television series. The Adventures of Conan was an 18-minute staged stunt show introduced as part of the Universal Studios tour in 1983. This show was produced by Universal Television, so it was probably easy to score shooting rights there. I found it a little interesting they didn't go ahead and call it by name for promotional purposes, as they were the studio in charge. The attraction was located in the Castle Theatre, replacing the Castle's original former title performance, Castle Dracula Live Show. The Conan Swords and Sorcery show made its debut June 18, 1983, so the shooting of the Whiz Kids sequence likely happened in early morning before tours began, as after hours there would have been restrictions on the young cast's shooting hours. The exhibition was indeed heavily computerized for safety of performers, including an industrial automation computer that helped verify correct stage positions of the human characters and timing of the more dangerous pyrotechnic elements so they could not go off if a human performer was in the path of danger. The Conan show ran until it was replaced in 1993 by the Beetlejuice Rock and Roll Graveyard Revue, and this past year the castle building itself was demolished to make way for the Fast and Furious Hollywood Drift roller coaster. So what worked? This show is out of pilot and into regular series mode, and it paces well, moving from scene to scene without getting bogged down. The adult cast are more involved in directing the kids to do the right thing. It was fun. It was ahead of its time in showing the danger of corresponding with someone solely online. What didn't work? Well, one thing that definitely didn't work was the bald cap on that stuntman for the heavy Macklin. They did depict some consequences for bad deeds as described in the show's retooling guidelines, but it did feel at times like 2 concurrent stories. One story in which Dave, Farley, Lieutenant Quinn, and the crooks had danger and intrigue, and one where the kids had hacking fun. It did all eventually come together in the end, but it felt like they were softballing the kids' jeopardy a bit compared to the pilot. While Farley seems to have a lot on the ball, he sure didn't notice a tail when he should have. Next time, we'll look at Whiz Kids Episode 3, Deadly Access. Happy hunting! You've been listening to the One Idjit's Thoughts On podcast, produced by Paul Mackey in association with Nimlas Studios. Any short clips of audio from shows is included under fair use for commentary purposes, and copyright for that content remains with its original copyright holders. The theme song is Too Good by Jack Mangan and is used by his generous permission. One Idjit's Thoughts is produced under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License. You can find more episodes of this podcast and many other fine podcasts at nimlas.org. You can contact me by emailing idjitcastpodcast@gmail.com or commenting on episodes at nimlas.org.
Let's make our own memories.
Well, I guess we're all playing with those gizmos now after all.